In 2007, when Apple released the iPhone, the entire US telecommunications industry changed. But while AT&T and Verizon surged ahead, another giant, Sprint, with over 55 million customers, plummeted. In just a few years, Sprint went from being a Fortune 500 company to the name most hated by both customers and employees in the United States. Behind that wasn't a technological mistake. It was a business model that treated customers like prey. From backstage, staff members recount the order to scam customers to meet KPIs. The customer recounted being charged for cancelling the contract, even though they had submitted their discharge papers. As for the shareholders, they only see virtual revenue figures exchanged for real credibility. Sprint turned its very belief, its most precious asset, into a fatal blow. How did a company that was once an American icon become a classic case study in selling out trust for short-term profit? In this video, we'll peel back each layer of history, each wrong decision, to understand why a 100-year-old empire failed so painfully. But first, let's rewind to the beginning. For over a century, Sprint was considered the information lifeline of America. Their story began on the iron rails of the Southern Pacific Railroad, where the first telegraph wires were strung along to serve internal communication between trains. From the click-click of the telegraph, they transformed into a telephone provider, then entered the mobile era to become one of the three telecommunications giants alongside AT&T and Verizon. The 1980s and 1990s were the golden age. Sprint invested early in fiber optic technology and launched the PinRop campaign. A classic advertisement with the message, "Our transmission quality is so clear that you can hear a pin drop." It's not just a slogan, but a symbol of purity and connection, of the belief that Sprint will deliver the best service at the most reasonable price. But you know, in the business world, the light often hides the growing darkness. After a period of rapid growth, Sprint faced increasingly fierce pressure, a saturated market, enormous infrastructure costs, and a technology race that was as expensive as an endless marathon. They need a boost, a strategic move to get ahead of their competitors. And then in 2005, Sprint launched a $35 billion deal, a merger with Nextel Communications. On paper, it was the perfect combination. Sprint was strong in traditional mobile networks, and Nextel was known for its push-to-AUX technology, favored by transportation companies, police, and construction workers. This deal is being likened to a marriage between two giants. But what no one says is those two giants hate each other from their very DNA. Sprint is a huge conservative and heavily process-driven organization. Meanwhile, Nextel was a nimble, daring startup with a street warrior culture. These two systems clash like oil and water. Management is divided, strategy is pulled back, and internal culture, the soul of the company, shatters into thousands of pieces. A later internal report described the phase in 3 words. Support on fire. Everything is chaotic. The technical systems are constantly failing. Customers call the call center and no one answers. And employees are confused about whether they belong to Sprint or Nextel. One employee recounted, "Every week I have to change my uniform, get a new name tag, and apologize to customers for mistakes I don't even understand myself." The $35 billion deal, instead of creating strength, became a huge burden, causing Sprint to lose both money and its soul. The stock is in freefall. Internally, there's a lack of direction, and that was just the beginning of the tragedy. After the merger, Sprint entered a period that experts called the era of profit fear. Every quarter, the financial reports are a nightmare. Millions of customers are leaving while network infrastructure and maintenance costs still consume billions of dollars each year. Instead of addressing the root causes, service quality and customer trust, management chose the shorter path, tightening revenue through penalty fees, tricks, and ambiguous contracts. Sprint began implementing a strategy that industry insiders call monetizing the frustration, making money from customer annoyance. They included early cancellation clauses in the contract with fees up to $2,300 USD, increased the price after a few months of trial, and implemented a service cancellation process so complex that many people chose to stay just to avoid battling the call center. A customer once said, "I feel like I'm paying to be abused. Every time I call the call center, it's a battle." The peak of this nationwide outrage was the incident where Sprint sent letters terminating contracts with 1,000 customers because they complained too much. The official message from the company is, "We are unable to meet your needs." And the irony is, that's exactly what customers have been telling Sprint for years, just in reverse. Internally, the spirit of service turns into fear. Employees are pressured to meet quotas and are required to close sales at any cost. Many people recount that they were trained to upsell customers to more expensive packages, even if they didn't need them. A former manager said through tears, "We used to be taught how to listen to customers. Now, they're teaching us how to silence customers." From a brand once trusted for its connectivity, Sprint has transformed itself into a symbol of disconnection, not just in its network, but in human relationships. How could a company that once represented quality fall into the trap of its own greed? And what turned Sprint's customer draining strategy, which was supposed to be its salvation, into its own self-destruction? In the next part, we will dissect the self-destruction mechanism when Sprint chooses short-term profits over long-term trust in the beginning of an irreversible chain of disasters. If every business has a breaking point for Sprint, it was when they started profiting from their customers' inability. After the failed merger, Sprint fell into a dangerous financial spiral. Revenue plummeted, stock prices crashed, and instead of reinvesting in customer experience, they chose the short-term but long-lasting path. Penalties, ambiguous terms, and promotional packages that trapped users. One user reported that when they implemented the unlimited plan, their internet was cut off because they used too much data. An American soldier serving in the Middle East is being charged with illegal contract termination, even though he is fully exempt under national regulations. He said, "I'm serving my country and they're still deducting money from me every month." Sprint doesn't just make customers angry, they make customers feel betrayed. These seemingly small fees, $200, $300, are like small drops of blood that bleed out each month. And when millions of customers found themselves in that situation, Sprint created a wave of anger that spread across the United States. A 2008 survey by ASI ranked Sprint last in the industry for customer satisfaction. In just 2 years, searches for the keyword Sprint complaint on Google increased by over 300%. Enough to transform a name once synonymous with speed into a symbol of digital frustration. Tech journalists at the time called this the uprising of online customers. No need for protests, no need for slogans. They just need to recount their experiences. And the strange thing is, this person's story is the story of thousands of others. But instead of asking why, management only thought about how to squeeze out more. When a company seeks to profit by exploiting customer fatigue, have they begun to consider their own demise? If the customer is the victim outside, then the employees are the ones who bear the brunt inside. The accounts from former employees that spread across American tech forums. We were taught how to get customers to upgrade their packages even if they didn't need to. Boss said, "Every customer is a walking wallet." Sprint turned its customer service team into a forced sales team. Instead of measuring performance by satisfaction, they measure it by the number of additional fares. As a result, the switchboards turned into battlefields. Employees are monitored every second, and the pressure of KPIs is so heavy that many people fall into stress and exhaustion. In call centers, as crowded as factories, thousands of employees have to meet a target of 70-80 calls per day. While the system is constantly malfunctioning and customers are flooding with complaints, some people recount that employees fainted right at their desk due to stress and ambulances had to be called in to assist. Management experts call this the mirror effect. When an organization treats its customers poorly, sooner or later they will treat their own people poorly as well. And when employees feel exploited, they react. Instinctively, they stop caring. In a healthy organization, a culture of service begins with pride. In Sprint, it's replaced by fear and guilt. When a company's internal pressure forces employees to deceive customers to survive, they are no longer a brand, but merely a sales machine. So what about you? Can you trust a brand when even the people who work there don't believe in it? And then, after years of squeezing customers dry, Sprint entered a phase where the entire market viewed it as a tech meme. Customers are posting videos mocking the weak signal inside Sprint stores. The Reddit community opened a thread titled, "How long until my call drops?" A sarcastic user. "I pay $25 per line, and next month's bill is $100."